Talk to us about that. So what are the ideas that fueled containment that also fueled the domestic ideology?
Now, the idea of containment was, okay, there's the Cold War, and it's set out, really, the terms were set at the end of World War II. The Soviet Union isn't going to go away, but we're not going to let it expand. It's going to be contained where it is and not go any farther. So any kind of effort to expand, the United States is going to fight to keep the communist world contained to where it was at the end of World War II. And what I began to discover as I was looking at the American side of this, and particularly the home and the family and women's roles, is that there was also a sort of unofficial containment that was going on in the United States, and that the home was the container. And the home was going to be the place that would both tame and domesticate and discipline all of the really scary elements of the post-war world. And what were they? Well, one was women's emancipation, which had happened during World War II. How are you going to contain that? You can't put that genie back into the bottle. And so you say, okay, so women have learned how to see themselves as professionals, as workers. Well, we're going to make sure they see themselves that way in the home. And this wasn't just a top-down thing where women are told by whoever, you know, I mean, certainly there were all of the so-called experts saying this, but women themselves, when they saw their opportunities shrink, and they had no control over that, then they were determined to make the best of their domestic roles and to really pour themselves into those roles and make their domestic work meaningful. And to a great extent, they did that.
So that's what you meant by career at home.
Yes, exactly. They built those domestic roles into careers, into a kind of professionalized work. So that's one way that containment operated. Another fear of the age was the atomic age. And it was similarly a frightening and potentially uncontained kind of reality. And yet, if you look to the home as a way to educate children and plan for protection, then you can also contain that. And consumerism was another worrisome aspect of post-war life. Of course, everyone was happy to see prosperity, but there's a long tradition in the United States of a suspicion of too much luxury and indulgence, that it would undercut the work ethic and make people soft and lazy. So after World War II, one thing you can do with consumerism is contain it within the home. And remarkably, if you look at the statistics of where people were spending their money, home, family vacations, household appliances, automobiles, things that would enhance home life and family life, they weren't really spending on huge luxuries unless they were very wealthy, like fur coats and lavish, vacations to faraway lands. People were getting in their cars and driving across the country and in the new highways that Eisenhower had built.